Yes. Well, we're very excited that all of you are here. I'm excited you guys are getting to know the chat box. So please use it throughout the discussion. We'd love for you to contribute. But for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Alyssa, and I'm going to be helping moderate tonight's webinar with Skyler. We also have Liz and Ed here behind the scenes. Actually, you see Liz. And they may chime in at some point, and we'll be engaging with you guys also inside of the chat box. So as you guys know, tonight Skyler will be talking all about pricing and how she does her pricing as an independent stylist and how to charge what you're worth. Many of you sent in so many questions with your registration form. So during tonight, we will be answering those. We got a lot of common questions. And again, if you'd like to ask any during the discussion, feel free to write them in. And we'll also be doing an open Q&A at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to let Skyler introduce herself. And Skyler would also love to know why this topic on pricing is important to you.
Well, for those of you obviously that don't know, I'm Skyler. There's my picture and my face. I chose this topic because I think that it is something that comes up really often. You know, a lot of people feel bad or they just aren't sure on what they should be doing. And so I think it's something that it was always a little more taboo, and I think that it needs to be brought to light a little bit more so that you can charge what you are worth and you can do exactly what, you know, charge exactly for the services that you're putting out there. I definitely just think that a lot of stylists, myself included, especially when I first started, I was very like day to day on, okay, you know, am I going to have enough money tomorrow, or what am I making today so that I can make sure that I can take care of everything tomorrow? You know, rent and product included, you know, you want to make sure that you have, you want to just make sure that you're charging what you're worth. At the end of the day, this is a luxury, and, you know, you're providing a really amazing service for people that are wanting to come and spend a good chunk of time with you.
Yeah. Well, I know that's a lot of people here probably have the same questions in their head with the questions that we got in their registration form. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about how you thought through all of that. Awesome. So before we get into the content, I really quickly wanted to go over everything we'll be discussing tonight on pricing for your salon. So when you guys registered, these were the 4 topics that were most asked about. We'll talk about all about how to design your pricing, how to raise your average ticket, how to and when to raise your prices, and how to communicate these prices with your clients. And of course, this will all be coming from Skyler's experience. But again, if you'd like to add anything to the conversation, please don't hesitate to write in the chat box. Okay, so starting off with designing your pricing. I know this is one of the most challenging things when starting your own salon. So Skyler, can you share how you designed your pricing and what the journey of getting it right looked like for you?
So for me, whenever I was designing my pricing, I started out, I started cosmetology school when I was 16 years old. So I was really young. I started with my license whenever I was really young. And I think that a lot of things go into consideration whenever you are designing your pricing to begin with. One should be, you know, the clients that you are attracting, especially at each stage in your life. So for me, whenever I was 18, 19 years old and I was working in a salon, you know, you're probably not attracting a lot of business professionals at the time yet. So I was, you know, you start out doing referrals with your friends. So I started a little lower on the scale, but you also want to take into consideration the area that you're in. So for me, I'm in South Lake, Texas. I did a little research. I looked at the average income of people that are in my town, that I'm, my ideal client that I'm wanting to attract. And then also the surrounding cities, or the surrounding towns that you think, you could attract clients from. Once I did that, I was able to figure out kind of like about what their hourly income would be. And so I was able to figure out what I could make an hour, what I needed to make an hour. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong is you bundle. I did it at first too. You bundle everything together and then you don't realize that, you used a whole bunch of product and now you're in the hole for the product that you used on that person. So you need to figure out, exactly what you're making an hour, the amount of product that you're using on the client, different techniques that are going into consideration. So I figured out what I needed to make an hour based on that, my dynamic, I guess you would say, area. And then, I was like, okay, this is what I need to make an hour. So I guess you could say kind of my pricing's based on time, but it's also based on the amount of product that I'm using and my area. Obviously in Texas, I'm not going to charge what someone is charging in New York or California. The cost of living is significantly different for both of those places.
Skyler, quick question for you, just because we may have, I know we have a lot of people on the call who are just starting out. How did you find that information of the average income in your area? Was it just Googling? Were there any resources?
I Googled it, yeah.
Okay. Good answer.
Yeah.
Google.
So I know. So yeah, I just Googled, I looked at a map and kind of figured out, about how far people would probably be willing to travel. I think whenever I initially started doing this, I think I did like a 10 or 12 mile radius around that area, and figured out, again, the annual income, the average annual income, figured out what that comes down to an hour about, and was like, okay, this is what I would like to be able to take home. So then you also need to put on top of that, taking into consideration your booth rent, your insurance, if you're carrying insurance, which I hope everyone is, your product, education, if you're paying for education, any expense that you're potentially using for your business, you also need to take that into consideration. That stuff is not what you're taking home. So that needs to be in addition to what you want to take home.
Right. I know you're booth renting and next to other stylists. Did you have to think about that at all, of like being competitive with the neighbor right next to you in the same salon?
No, I don't. And the only reason I don't is because what someone else offers, I may not offer, or what I offer, they may not offer. I think for me, it's targeting your ideal client. So Susie in the room next to me may not get along with me, but she gets along with Kathy next door.
Right, that makes sense. We got a really good question from Jallery. And on the next slide, she asked, how do you design your pricing around being affordable and yet still making money?
So I think that goes back to, figuring out what your average income is, but yet still targeting people. It's kind of finding a really nice balance between the two. So if I am 20 years old and I'm doing hair, friends that I probably have from high school or that are my age, they're not going to have a business professional job. They're not going to have a corporate America job, more than likely. So they're not going to want to be spending $65+ on just a haircut. They're going to probably be something, that's a little bit lower. So I think it's really just figuring out your average income, but also keeping in mind the kind of client that you're wanting to attract. But also still remembering that as you grow, your clients will also grow with you.
Right. This is so tricky, but I agree with you. The best thing you can think about first is your expenses, comparing yourself to other professionals, and then thinking about your ideal client.
Right.
And what would be comfortable for them. Another question we got from Andy Rose, which by the way is such a pretty name, I have to say, Andy. She asked, it's so pretty. She asked, how do I design my pricing as a new hairstylist?
So what I did, because I initially was bundling everything, and before I realized that I really wasn't making very much money at all, I wrote everything down, or you can get an Excel spreadsheet. You need to know how much your color is costing you. How much does your developer cost you? What you need to know what your expenses are. You know, just an easy one. So typically what I like to do is I figure out for my booth rent. If I'm in the salon 5 days a week and my booth rent is $100 a week, that would be really nice. It's not, but
Yeah.
you know, say you're in there 5 days a week. So it's costing me at least $20 a day to just be in that room. So you need to be making at least $20, and then whatever product you use on top of that. So I think the biggest thing that most people don't know is you need to know where every penny is going, especially in the beginning. Because if not, then you never know what you're actually taking home and what you're actually, you know, is coming into your account and then going right back out, just because you're, you know, you don't know what your expenses are. And then that just kind of goes back into what are you wanting to actually take home versus what your expenses are. So I think you need to kind of sit down and have a real conversation with yourself as a stylist and figure out, you know, where you are experience wise. You know, you do want to still be fair as a new hairstylist, but also, you know, you have to live as well.
Yeah. I feel like this is the scariest and most important part, because you don't want to start off too low,
Right.
or else it'll be harder to raise your prices later.
Right.
We got another question from Victoria. Is it best to price by a la carte, hourly, or by service?
So I do, all of my pricing is a la carte. Everything is individually priced. But I also, you know, kind of hourly as well, just because I know what I want to make minimum an hour. So I just put that into my big service. So for me, if somebody's coming in and they want like a foliage situation, I would foil them. And if they want balayage in between, I would do that as like an additional color. So my full foil, say it's $100, then I would do my balayage. If I'm using lightener, it's an extra $10 for every ounce that they use. So I weigh all of my product that I'm using. And that's a really great way to make sure that you know what your prices are. So I would charge for the foil, I would charge for the balayage in between. And then if they are toner, they needed a toner afterwards, I would charge for a toner. You know, each thing that you're doing, you want to make sure that you're charging for, but you don't want to do it at full price. So the thing that's really nice about doing a la carte is that it is extremely customizable. So for example, I have one of my clients, she has like 3 hairs on her head. So I don't charge her for a full foil. I charge her for a partial foil because I can do all of her hair in a foils with 3 ounces of lightener, because that's what I use for a partial foil. And I can do it in the same amount of time as a partial foil. So I think that also helps really build a trust with your client, that you're not overcharging them. You know, if they do have a less amount of hair than somebody that's coming in with, you know, Rapunzel locks, where they would get charged a lot more for their color.
I'm always that surprised client. They don't realize how much hair I actually have on my head. I have.
Skyler, we just have a quick question from Andy Rose, who asks, what does a la carte mean in comparison to services? If you could just explain for maybe some newcomers of what the term is.
A la carte for me is each individual thing that I'm doing. One service, to me, a service is they are coming in to have a service done. So like their appointment I would consider a service. So like before I started doing the a la carte, if they came in for a balayage and a toner, I would say, oh, it's $150 for this service. Now I word that as, you're wanting to do X, Y, and Z. This is my starting rate. And it will just depend on, where you're going from, what you're wanting to do, how much product I'm going to be using on you. And whenever I'm using the Gloss Genius app and I have my, my online booking system, in the description, whenever they can go online and book, it tells them on there exactly, I can put that description in there. There's also a button that I can use that tells them, this is the starting price. It can go up from here if I need to use more, or we're adding on another service or something like that. So it allows for a lot of transparency with my clients. So there's never any questions about it.
Got it. So can you share what you use for your clients to book online? So can you go back to the last slide?
Say that again, Melissa.
Can you share how your clients book online and like what their feedback has been with booking you online that way?
So their feedback, they all love it. All of my clients do it. I had been doing it for so long before that I was, always talking to my clients, calling them, texting them back and forth. And then I started realizing that was taking away from the clients that were in my chair, or
right.
I was just working 80 plus hours, talking to people. So they love it because if they're sitting up in their bed watching Netflix at 2:00 in the morning, they can go on there, see exactly what I have available, see what's on my calendar, and they can go on there and pick the time that works best for them. I even have clients that are booked out through the rest of the year, just because they go on there, they secure their spot, they know exactly what my schedule is. And it makes it really easy for them and me, because they're able to do that. I'm not having to put the extra effort into, communicating with them. Not that I don't want to communicate with my clients, but that's more time that I can focus on someone that's in my chair, and I can, do an additional service. I can sit there and have that conversation. I can really have that good one-on-one time with them, and make them feel like they're really appreciated in my chair.
Skyler, do you mind just giving?
Really easy.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Liz.
I was just going to ask if you could give some background on what Gloss Genius is for people who don't know, and then just maybe talk through how you set up a booking site and how automated it is, and just so people, I don't know how many people know what it is.
So Gloss Genius is the booking app that I use. I use it to process all of my credit cards. I use my website with it, that you can customize your website. It has all of my services on there. You can set all of that information up in the settings when you download the app. Honestly, it's like I have a personal assistant without having to pay high dollar for a personal assistant. Yeah. It's really affordable personal assistant. But it really, whenever I started using this, how long is it? Is it been 3-4 years? How long have y'all been? I've used it like the very beginning.
Yeah, 3+ years.
So I've used it forever. And when I was able to use that, that's really when it took my business to the next level. Just because I was able, I think my clients saw that I was taking that next step, and I had something that is really professional and put together and very transparent for them and myself.
Yeah. I also like that when you have the service menu set up, no one can question your pricing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, when you're independent or you're just starting out on your own, clients will question why you're pricing the way you are. So when you have it set up like this, they are less likely to do that. Have you ever experienced this, Skyler? And if so, how have you handled it?
How have I handled?
Have clients ever questioned your pricing? before?
I have had, no one has really questioned it. I guess
That's good.
kind of hinted towards it. But really, what I tell them is it's, this is a luxury service. And I put a lot of time and effort into exactly what I'm doing. I have X, Y, and Z to offer you. And at the end of the day, if your client that's in your chair can't respect that, that's probably not a client that you want, your ideal client that you want in your chair to grow with you moving forward. So I explain it in a way that I am doing it for them and for me.
Right. That makes sense. So I know you've started doing virtual consultations recently. Can you share what these look like and how this has helped with customizing your pricing for clients?
So my virtual consultation has helped a lot. One, because of COVID, so they're not having to come in, especially because a virtual consultation or consultation in general should be anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. Anything super long after that, I feel is, the client probably doesn't know there's some sort of a miscommunication. So these virtual consultations, nobody wants to come up to the salon for 15, 20 minutes and then go right back home. So this helps a lot. I can be sitting at my house, if I wanted to do a consultation that day, they can just go on there, they can select the time slot, or I can even do it while one of my clients is processing, since I know a lot of states right now aren't letting people double book. Most people need to process for at least 20 minutes. This kind of helps fill those gaps without having to take up a slot where you're making, where you can be making money, because time is money in this industry. So this has helped a lot. The only thing that I won't do on virtual consultations is matching hair for extensions or something like that.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, no.
That's so hard.
So I will, I can get a feel for what their hair looks like, especially if they're coming in, more than likely they're at home. They've been, it's been in a bun on the top of their head, something like that. So I can really see them in probably their natural habitat with their hair, what they're doing with it. Talk about their goals for their hair. They can send me a picture of what they're wanting. I can look at that really quickly, see their hair. And it's just really kind of made things a little bit easier, especially with the COVID thing.
I also loved what you like. And I know you said this a little bit earlier when we were talking before, that you use virtual consultation sometimes to assess someone's pricing. So I think especially when you're starting out, and even when you have lifelong clients, I'm one of those people that Alyssa said, I'll go to the salon and I'll see the price online and then I'll get the long hair price and I'm so pissed off. But I think using virtual consultations where you can meet with them before, it takes 5 minutes on Zoom and say, okay, this is what it's going to cost you. I don't think that person's going to cancel their appointment, but they go in not pissed off, and you can, sell them more products and make more money off their sales ticket, which we'll talk about in a second. So I think you can use virtual consultations to help tell your clients, okay, this is what it's going to cost you. And then there are no surprises.
Right. And that's exactly what I do, especially, virtual consultation, or if they're coming in for a consultation. I even have little notepads that I have my logo on, and I'll sit there and write out, everything that they're wanting to do. I let them know this is $10, this is $15, this is this, this is this. This is about the price that we're looking at, give or take, because I always let them know there could be surprises. You don't know until you get in there and you start, lifting stuff and moving stuff around. But this is a good price, give or take. I also have clients that they come in and they're like, this is what I want, but I can only spend $100. And I'm just really upfront and honest with those clients and tell them, okay, well, if this is your budget, this is what I can do for you. You're not going to look like Jennifer Aniston when you leave with that, your inspiration picture, but instead of a full head of highlights, we can do some face framing pieces so you feel brighter around your face, maybe do a partial balayage and a toner. because at the end of the
makes
day,
sense.
you don't want them to, you don't want them to hustle you. They're in your chair.
Right.
You should be able to take control of that situation. And just let them know, this is with the money, the budget that you've given me, this is what I'm able to provide for you.
Skyler, I'm sure you can make anyone look like Jennifer Aniston. Go ahead.
Just a quick question.
Okay.
Before we move on, because I do want to move on, but Juliana asked, do you charge for consultations, virtual consultations?
No.
Right.
All of my consultations are complimentary, mainly because I want to build that trust with that person. So I have, they come in, or I'm on FaceTime or Zoom with them, and I have just a really honest conversation with them. And then obviously whenever they come in, that's they get charged for their service. But
Got it. Okay, so moving on to raising your average ticket. Can you share how you've done this with your clients? And my question to the audience, all of you watching, is this something you guys look at often and strive to do for your salon?
So this is something I actually use in Gloss Genius. I look at it daily, if not, or weekly, if not daily. So the biggest thing I think that stylists think is they need to get more people in their chair so that they can make more money. But if you raise your average ticket price per client, then you're doing the exact same thing with a smaller amount of people. So this is really great for stylists that are just starting out, because more than likely you probably have a little bit smaller clientele right now because you're just starting out. So I always will go in and look at, in my reports on Gloss Genius, what my average tickets are, what my sales transactions were, and then I can kind of gauge where I'm at. So for adding on or raising my average ticket price, you want to try and do as many add-on services as possible. Obviously within reason that actually will do, that will complement the client. And not just because you're trying to hurry and raise your average ticket price. So if I have somebody coming in for a full foil, while they're sitting there, I ask them if they want, if they need a brow wax while they're processing, or if they would like to add on a deep conditioning treatment, or Redken has Kim shots, if they would like to add on a Kim shot at the end of their service. So that just kind of raises that average ticket price, and you can do that with everyone. And you'll get
Skyler, I know you mentioned that you do this for free for the first time for someone. That way the next time they'll actually add it on to their service and they liked it the first time.
So I do this. Redken has Kim shots that I am in love with, and even deep conditioning treatments, because they're really fairly inexpensive. So if it's their first time, or they don't really feel, they're kind of on the fence about doing an additional service, I'll give them their first one complimentary. I'll explain all the benefits to it. They can see the difference, feel the difference. 9 times out of 10, the next time they come in for their appointment, they're going to want to add that on, and they'll add it on every single time. So I know, like, when I'm using Gloss Genius and I want to add that onto their service, whenever I'm checking them out, you can add a discount right at the bottom. So you can do a percentage off if you want to, or you can click specifically on that service and change that specific pricing. So if I wanted to do a complimentary deep conditioning treatment, what I would do is I would click on that conditioning treatment right there on that first box, and change that price to $0 from $10 or $15, whatever your service is.
That looks really easy. And I also like how you can see all the a la carte services too. And it's transparent for clients to see.
Yes. And that's one of the biggest things that I like to, telling everybody that, this transformed my whole business. I was able to keep myself accountable, because before I would forget what I did, or I would just be like, oh, it's 150, sounds great. Or it's 25 for this, 25 for this, because it's just easy math. But I mean, with this, I press buttons. I don't have to do anything. I can press charge. I can put their card, if they have their card on file, whenever they book their appointment, because I personally require a card on file for everyone. That way, just in the off chance that I do get no-showed, it lets them know, hey, you'll be charged X amount of dollars for no-show or late cancellations. So every single person that is in my booking system is in Gloss Genius. All my clients have a card on file. So I just scan that, they sign, and I send a receipt. They get their notification, and then it prompts them to put a review that goes straight to my website.
That's awesome. We got a question from Samantha, and she asked, what is the average amount of product used per service, and how much have you charged for extra?
So an exact dollar amount, again, I think that definitely depends on your area, and what the amount, what they're making in that area, what their average income is. But as far as the amount of product that I use, for a full foil, a color retouch, I get 4 ounces of color. That's what I start with. That's what my pricing starts at. If they need additional color, each time I mix with color, they get an additional 3 ounces, and it's like $26. And then lightener, it's for every additional ounce, it's $10.
Got it. That's a really, really great question. Now, let's talk about raising your prices. There were so many questions that came in when it comes to this. So can you share how you've done this with your clients? And my question for everyone watching as well, is this something that you look at often? And have you raised your prices recently?
So I actually raised my prices right before we got shut down. Really convenient.
Perfect timing.
I know. But I did it because I was looking at the amount of clients that I had, and what the demand was for appointment times. Whenever I feel like I'm being overworked, or, clients are really wanting my time more, that lets me know and indicates that you should probably raise your prices, because your time is starting to get more valuable. Again, I know I've said it, time is money. So, if you have clients that want to take up 3 hours of your time, but they don't want to pay for it, then that's probably not an ideal client that you want in your chair. So, I wanted to knock off a couple Saturdays every month and not stay as many late nights. So I changed that I changed my availability in the app, in the Gloss Genius app, sent out a notification through the marketing center, let everybody know, what my new hours were going to be. And then I also sent out a notification letting them know that my prices would be increasing. So I think it's really depending on what where you're at in your career. Before that, I think maybe 2 years before that, I had raised them. But also keep in mind, whenever you raise your prices, because I do everything a la carte, it's not just my foil that gets increased. So instead of actually only getting a $5 increase because you changed your haircut, you've done a $5 increase just because $5 is easy on your haircuts, on your deep conditioning treatment, on your full foil, your toner. So you're giving yourself a really significant raise, every time you do it. So I feel that I don't have to do it as often.
Got it. A common question we got from everyone was around factoring new education training into your pricing. So how have you factored those in as different achievements come?
So I personally, I think education is everywhere. It's on YouTube, it's on Instagram. I follow wedding updos on Instagram, Redken, Olaplex, you name it, and I follow it. So anytime I'm not doing something, I'm constantly watching new education. So for me, I think because it is so accessible to us, I don't factor in the cost for that because, you know, it is, I mean, a lot of times it is free. But I do factor in the fact that I'm able to offer a more luxury service than some other clients, or even just the fact that because I am doing so much training, Sally may not be able to offer the same things that I can across the hall. So, eventually they will filter to you, and they'll just pay, what your hourly rate, you want your hourly rate to be. I think it's mainly your income, your hourly income that you're wanting to take home minus your expenses, because you are doing, you're putting in all that extra time. So even though you spend 6 hours a day at the salon, when you get home, you're watching Instagram, you're watching this, you're watching that. And I think it just kind of factors itself out, as opposed to like me sitting there thinking, okay, I've spent this much time, learning this month, so I need to charge this much more. I think it just kind of eventually works itself out, and you get those high-end clients that you would like to attract.
Right. Awesome. Now let's talk about marketing and communicating these updates on price raises with clients. So how do you message this in terms of what you actually say, and how do you actually announce it to clients?
So what I will do, I'll go into my Gloss Genius app, and I personally send out an email. If I want to send a text message, just letting them know, like, hey, check your email, there's some exciting news going, or big things are happening, making it really exciting. I think that's the biggest thing too that you want to do, is always make sure that you make it seem really exciting, like you're doing it for them. Because
that's a great approach.
If you seem excited about it, they'll be excited about it, especially if they want to grow with you. So I will send them a message within the Gloss Genius app, and then I'll also send them an email. And this is kind of what it looks like. And I will put it out there 6 to 8 weeks before I actually start doing it. So I want to see my clients at least once, especially your regular clients. I want to see them at least once to let them know, hey, there's really awesome things happening up here. There are new techniques. There's, you're getting one-on-one attention. I'm not double booking. So a lot of my clients really appreciate that, and they would rather pay additional money, a higher dollar service, to have my attention one-on-one, as opposed to me double booking.
This is my favorite.
I love.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think we're going to mention the same thing, but I love the filters that were here. If you, for example, if you wanted to reach your more loyal clients, those who have been with you for a long time. So the next question, and Liz, if you wanted to mention something different, let us know. But the next question comes from Leah, and she asks, how do you communicate raising prices to longtime loyal clients?
So I really just pretty much do it kind of the same way. If they are a loyal client, they'll want to see you grow. They'll want to continue doing that with you. So if I had someone that's been in my chair for 5 years, and this is the second time I'm raising prices on her, 9 times, more than likely, she really likes the services that you're offering. She likes what you're doing to her hair or her eyebrows, or, whatever it is. So if you approach it in a really awesome way, in a way that you're really excited that you're bringing something new to the table, or you've done that, you've gone the extra mile. I think the biggest thing is just having an open conversation and being really transparent with your clients. So, sending out regular text messages, sending out regular emails, and having them in your chair, because I can have that one client in my chair. They're the only ones in my chair. I'm having that one-on-one time with them. I can sit there and tell them exactly what I have done to basically justify to the client why they're spending this much money with me.
Right.
I think, Skylar, you have such amazing tips, but this is really my favorite because I've seen this done so poorly. I remember going to a salon once, going to get a blowout. It was the same place I always went. And there was like a little sign at the receptionist desk that said like, due to like rents rising, we have to raise blowout prices by $2. And I was thinking to myself, I was so like annoyed about it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I feel so bad for them. It's annoying now though that I have to spend more. And I think your idea of like making it super positive is such a great takeaway. And the way that you wrote it here, it's like, I'm raising my prices, but I'm doing it because I'm bringing the best services and techniques. And like kind of what you said earlier, like you're giving yourself a promotion and your clients are actually excited for you. And I think like that's such an important takeaway of like having those tough conversations to have, and how do you do it so that they feel better. So it's kind of what you said, it's like I'm raising my prices, but what this means is I'm not doing double processing. I have more time to spend on you. You're going to have a better hair color experience because of this. And then saying like, oh wow, it's worth it. Like I'm so on board. And I think that's really, really good advice.
Your clients are more likely to support you with this approach.
And there's an kind of backtracking. So with my clients, being able to spend that one-on-one time with them, I can pull up a report that lets me know like the clients that will spend, you know, my most valuable clients, the ones that see me all the time, spend the most amount of money with them. So with that one-on-one attention that they're getting, if I know that Susie likes to have a certain red wine while she's getting her hair done, before her appointment, I go to the store and I buy that certain red wine and I make sure that it's there for her appointment. And it just makes it really easy to have that there. And I can even put that, you know, you can go through that report, look at who those most valuable clients are at that time. You know, if you wanted to do it monthly, weekly, yearly, and you can even go in and put that in their notes. So before they come in, it'll pop up. Gloss Genius will alert you. It'll pop up, let you know what your notes are, and you can make sure that you know, have that service available, have the product available, or, you know, the red wine that she likes available.
The red wine available. I was about to say that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Skyler, for sharing all of your tips. It's now time to move on to the Q&A portion. So everyone, if you have any questions for Skyler, please write them into the chat box now, and we will get to them. And while those are coming up, Skyler, do you just want to share the info here on the screen and how people can get hooked up with Gloss Genius through you?
Yes. So you can download Gloss Genius in the App Store. It's available in, you know, Android or Apple. And you can use my code. It's Skyler Schrader right on the screen. You'll get $30 cash. If you sign up, you get a free trial, and then you'll also get really awesome VIP perks if you do use my code. Like I said, whenever I downloaded Gloss Genius, it completely changed my whole business. It really took me to the next level. So even if you just wanted to try it, you get a 30-day free trial. And if you have any questions, you can follow me on Instagram. It's @HairBySkyler. And you can feel free to message me if you have any questions on pricing, you know, any niche questions or anything like that.
Thanks, Skyler.
Perfect.
So we got one question. So Julie asked a question. How long do you block off for each service to maximize your time? So if you're blocking off in between clients, especially now if you're sanitizing in between, how do you price your time for that, also including that?
So my time in between, I did 15 minutes so that I could clean, breathe without my mask on. So on my main big services that I offer, I just added 15 minutes to that service. So whenever they go book online, if it takes me 2 hours to do a foil, now it takes me 2 hours and 15 minutes. But the biggest thing for me was, whenever I very first started, was taking a stopwatch or a timer and literally timing myself whenever I was doing foils, or timing myself when I was doing a balayage. That's the best way to figure out what your timing is going to be and the best way to schedule yourself. And then, you know, of course, time is money. So you want to make sure that you're not taking too terribly long. But I would say that's the best way to figure out your timing.
Thanks. And we have a question from Melissa. She asked if you could just summarize what you said about hourly pricing. I know we spoke about it a lot, but if you just want to touch on some high level points about how you set that hourly price, that'd be great.
So I figured out my hourly pricing based on the average income in my area and the surrounding areas for me. So if the average hourly income in that area was going to be $50, then I did it to where I could make at least $50. Because again, it's a luxury service. So you want to make sure that is, if you want $50 to be your take home, then you want to do your prices kind of accordingly. Does that make sense without?
Yeah, and I think that goes into the segue. So Andy Rose has a question, and this differs in the state that you're in, but she asks, how does renting a chair usually cost on average? And kind of, you obviously have to build in that cost when you're setting your prices. If you just want to speak to, I know it's different by area, but generally what you've seen.
So in Texas, I would say generally, I've seen in an open concept, if you're wanting to rent a chair, like $180. And I've seen up to like $500 a week, or $600 a week. Obviously those rooms are a lot more spacious. So the best way that I would figure out exactly how much you need to make, or like how to incorporate your room rent into that, is if your room's $100, you're there 5 days a week, you need to add on, make sure that you're making at least $20 so that you're a day. That way you're at least covering your rent.
Got it. We have a question. I know we're running out of time, but we have a question from Juliana. She asked, do I need to study about something to learn about how to charge for my service or for a mounted product? And I guess on top of that, I want to ask a question for people who are just starting out. Skyler, what would be the top 2 tips that you would tell them on how to set their prices?
I would take into consideration what your demographic is. I would take into consideration your age, and the clients that you're more than likely going to be attracting. A business professional is going to pay a little bit more money than a high school teenager or a college student. So I think those are the big things that I would take into consideration. And look up the average income of what a 20-year-old college student is. About what could they potentially pay. Again, it's a luxury service. It's not something that is required, but you want to, starting out, you want to keep it fair, but you also want to make sure that your bills are being paid.
Got it. We have 2 more questions and then we'll wrap up. So the first question is Julie asked about recommendation on starting prices as a stylist. So what's too little to charge even with no experience? And I know a lot of what you're saying depends on area, but like just from hearing prices around, what would you say is like something reasonable? And then we have another, answer that and then I'll jump in with the next one.
I would say, I'm trying to remember, it was so long ago. I think whenever I first kind of started doing this, I wanted to make, I think it was like 50 cents a minute or something like that I was wanting, so like $20 or $30 an hour was what I wanted to start doing. Because remember, even though you technically don't have any experience, you did go to school. So you don't have, you have experience, what you're doing. At the end of the day, they're also paying for your education that you learned. This isn't something that you can just go like pick up out of nowhere. You've got to be licensed by your state and your state board and have that sanitation so that you can keep your clients safe, especially during times like this. So I think it's just, making sure that you're not selling yourself short, and always making sure that you're confident in everything that you're doing, because at the end of the day, you may not feel experienced, but you definitely have a lot more experience than, the average Joe coming off the street.
Definitely. And to wrap it up, I know we're over, so, and I think there's so much on this topic that people have questions, so please DM Skyler on Instagram, or we can give out her email if you guys have more questions. But just one last one on selling products as an independent stylist. This is a question from Andy Rose, and I think this plays into like raising your average ticket price. The more products you sell, the more that goes up. So if there's just any like last like tips you want to give on just selling products as an independent.
So products, I just sell at the recommended retail price from my beauty supply. But I will always, you know, whenever I'm styling their hair at the end of the service, I always make sure I have a tray whenever I'm doing that I can kind of move around them. And I always set it right there on them, on the tray. And I try to use no more than 3 of anything on them. I try to do 2 to 3. So like a leave-in conditioner, a moisturizing or volumizing, and then like a shine serum or something like that. And I will physically put it in their hand so that they can touch it, they can feel it, they can see, you know, how it feels, what it does. That's the best way, honestly, for them to more than likely take it home with you. And it's a great way to raise your average service ticket or your average ticket.
And also having them smell it. That gets me every time.
Yes,
If the product
yes, it does. That's what everybody, the smell it always gets everybody.
Yep. All right, everyone. Well, if that's all the questions, thank you all so much for joining. And as Liz said, and Skyler said as well, feel free to DM her if you have any more questions on pricing or even Gloss Genius. We will be sending you all a follow-up email with this webinar recording and all the info that Skyler shared. But thank you guys for joining. We hope you walked away with some new ideas for your pricing, and we wish you all a great week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.